In this video, we are going to talk about hedging a portfolio with futures contract. In this exercise, we're going to have a portfolio, a market index portfolio, and we're going to short some futures in order to protect the value of the portfolio. Always remember that when you hedge in that fashion, yes, you prevent losses. You protect your value by preventing losses. However, if there were to be gains on the portfolio, then you are sacrificing those gains for protection. And we will see how the numbers work out. So here we start with this data. This is the given data. The holding period is 3 months. The annual risk-free rate is 3%. The dividend yield on that market index is 0.75% a year. The index we hold is the S&P 500, so it's a market portfolio. And we're saying that the current value or price on the index is $750. A futures contract on the S&P 500 is going for $750, $750. That's the price. The value of the portfolio right now, of the index portfolio, is $2,525,000. That's the value of your portfolio. That's how much money you have in there. We're going to say that the portfolio beta right now is 0.9. And one contract of the futures is $187.50. That's the cost. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate some numbers, some factors that we're then going to use to know how many contracts we should buy to try to do the best we can to hedge this portfolio. So we're going to have this first value called value of the asset. This is simply the value of the asset today, the one you have, the portfolio, which is $2,525,000. Now, for the value of the futures, we're going to go ahead and take the price of the future, which is $757.50, times the value of one contract. So that's going to be a value that we're going to assign for this formula. Now, this is the key factor that we're trying to calculate. We're going to go ahead and take the beta, 0.9, and going to multiply it by the division of VA and VF. So inside the parentheses we have is VA divided by VF, right? Times the beta. That's all you got to do. Now we have a factor that we can use as in total contracts. Now, let's talk about this table. This is not a timeline. These are different scenarios of what could happen if the index goes up or down in relation to the, and also if the futures moves with it. So these here in white will be given numbers. These here in blue are the ones we're going to calculate. Again, this is not a timeline. These are different scenarios. For example, the index was at $750. What if in 3 months it's $675? So it went down. Or what if in 3 months it went down to $712 only? Or what if it stayed the same at $750? Or what if it did go up at $787.50? Or if it went up all the way to $825? So these are different potential outcomes, but you can see how the hedge will work. This one is similar things. It's a bunch of ors. The futures price index could go down to 677, 714, stay the same. Well, 753, I'm sorry, not stay the same, but 753, 790, or 828. So those are potential outcomes. So really, we're just going to go through one of them because I can just repeat the process for each one of them to get these new numbers. But let me tell you what these mean. So first, notice that this is the same, because what this one's calling for is what is the future price of the index today, the futures price. So that's the 757.50. So that's why this one is just that same number there all across. So that one's a given, easy. You just put it in there. You want to put in the formula, saying it is equals to that. We already discussed this is a given figure if the futures price index in 3 months went down from the original price. So what we want to do now, we're going to calculate the potential gain or loss of the hedge. Then we put that number to the side, then we're going to continue, and then we're going to calculate the gain or loss of the index, and then we put it together to see how our hedge worked. So our first order of business is, was there gain or loss on the futures position? Remember, you shorted 16 contracts. So this is how it plays out. We have the D12 here. D12 is the 16 we calculated. So 16 contracts, and each contract is 187.50. So we're going to multiply those two. 16 contracts at 187.50, and that's why it's D12 times D9. But it's going to be multiplied by the gain or loss. So remember, you are shorting it. So because you're shorting it, you make money if the price goes down. So we're going to do is E15 minus 677. E15 minus E16, which is 757 minus 677. What that means is that, remember, you sold it for 757.50. That's what the short position means. And because it went down, you get to buy it for 677. So you made money. You bought it for less than what you sold it. And that's what that represents here. So in dollar amount, you would have made on the future short position $241,500 because it went down. However, remember, this is a hedge. You also had the portfolio in a long position. So now we're going to set this number to the side. Let it sit there for a second. And we're going to see what happens to the index that went down to 675 from its original 750. So we're going to calculate here. So how do we go about that? What we have here, we're going to start with E14. If you look at it here, E14, that's the value of the index at 675. Now, what we're doing here in this piece, that is the new divided by old minus 1. That's just checking the returns. So E14 is a 675. That's the new value. D5 is the old value, 750, minus 1. So that gives you the return or the capital gains or losses on the portfolio. But remember, there's a dividend involved. So the second piece is accounting for the dividends that came in. So that's the dividend yield we're doing here. So this is the capital gain yield. In this case, a loss, but you get the message. And this other portion you're adding is the dividend yield to get the total return on the index. So D4 is the 0.75% of the dividend yield, but that's annualized. So I got to bring it down to 3 months only. And that's what this second part is doing here. I'm taking D2, the 3 months, divided by 12 months to account for that quarter of a year. It's not the entire year, so we don't get the entire 0.75%. We only get 1/4 of that. And that's what's happening here. So once you have the capital gains yield and the dividends yield, your total return, in this case, a loss, is negative 9.81%. Now let's talk about the expected return on the portfolio. Here, we're going to do cap M. All right, this is a cap M situation. However, since we have annualized numbers and monthly ones, we're going to do cap M, but we're going to adjust some things for the 3 months. So this first piece here is your risk-free rate adjusted, and I'll go over the numbers in a minute. So that's the risk-free rate for the 3 months. This is the beta times the market premium, which is the return of the market, minus the risk-free rate adjusted for the quarter of the year. So you have an expected return of the portfolio that you have of negative 8.756. This is CAPM. Let's go over it again. I start CAPM with a risk-free rate, but that 3% risk-free rate, I have to adjust it for the 3 months. That is not the entire year. So you got the 3 months divided by 12. Beta is already given up here. That's the 8, the 0.9, times the return of the market, which is this number we calculated here. That's the S&P 500. Return of that is the return of the market, minus the risk-free rate again, adjusted for the 3 months. So as CAPM, the only thing that looks different is that we have to adjust the risk-free rate for 3 months instead of a year. So that is the expected return on the portfolio that you hold. So now that we have that number, we can check the value of the portfolio plus dividends in the 3 months. So here we're just using good old-fashioned growth formula, future value. D7 is the present value of the asset today, of the portfolio you're holding, times 1 plus the return, in this case, the loss, a negative return. So that's the future value formula, also known as a growth formula. So after we did those calculations, use all those numbers, we went from $2,525,000 down to $2,303,000 because we have a negative return. That happened clearly because everything went down in price. But here's where the hedge comes in. If you would not have hedged this, you just would have lost that difference between this and this, over $200,000. However, here's your position with the hedge. We take the money you made from the shorting of the futures plus your value of your portfolio after everything was said and done. And that's your total value right now of your position. So what happens is that 241,500 you made here is going to offset the loss from 2.5 million to 2.3 million. So when you add those two numbers together, your value is still at 2,545,405. You're actually doing a little better than when you were. But what's important here is that even though the market went down, you didn't lose money. You actually made a little bit, but the goal was to not lose. And no, you clearly did not lose the value of your portfolio. So what you do is you repeat the scenario. You repeat the calculations with the different scenarios and you check what you have. So same thing here. The price didn't drop that much. So you still made money on the short, just not as much as here because the price drop was less. Then you calculate return on the index, CAPM, for the expected return on the portfolio based on beta. Here would have been a situation where you would have gone from 2,525,000 to 2,417,000. You would have lost money, but because you did apply the hedge, you take this, add it with that, you're at 2,546,000. Still a little more, so you actually made a little money, but what's important is that you did not lose money. That was the intent of the hedge. If things would have stayed the same, you do the numbers again, that's fine. You did not expect to lose money because it didn't change. However, the hedge still paid off a little bit because the difference here wasn't that bad. And you ended up a little more. But the important thing is you didn't lose. Now, here's where the sacrifice comes in. If the value of the index in 3 months were to start going up, what happens is that because of the hedge you have, you're going to lose money on the hedge. That's why those negatives here. Then we calculate. This is the number. These two are the numbers you would have had if you did not hedge. Both of them clearly above 2,525,000. But because you're doing the hedge to protect your losses here, you have to give up these gains, or some of them at least. So when you take away the losses on the hedge, you're down to 2,545,000 and 2,546,000. So that's the whole point. Here you would have lost money. Well, at least in these two. But the hedge prevented you from losing money. But when you do that, if there was money to be made, it would have prevented you from making that money as well. But the importance of a hedge is to preserve value, not to make money. Is to avoid losses. This is typically applied when, let's say, there's expected recession in the next 3 months. So if you were right on your expectation, you protected your wealth, you're better off. If you were wrong in your expectations, you still end up with the same money, but you didn't take advantage. We're not able to benefit from the upward movement in the market. That's it for this video. See you on the next one.